All right, so here we have our next page in our social studies book, page 84, and it's talking about different communities. Remember we talked about communities quite a while ago, like at the beginning of the year when we talked about maps and cities and things like that. We talked about communities, different types of communities. Well, we're going to break the communities down this time and talk about 3 different kinds of communities. The first one we're going to talk about is an urban community. A city like New York over here is an urban community. Urban communities have many tall buildings and stores. The streets and sidewalks are busy with people, cars, buses, and taxis. So down here, I want you to use nice, complete sentence and list some of those things. So you could say, some features of a city are tall buildings, comma, stores, comma, busy streets, comma, and busy sidewalks, period. That would be a great sentence to put at the bottom because we used our words from our book and we just made it a shorter sentence. We rephrased it in our own words, okay? That was something that we talked about a little bit in the past. So an urban community is like a city, okay? It has tall buildings. There are lots of stores. The streets and the sidewalk are busy. It's very crowded if you look. The sidewalk's very crowded. The streets would also be very crowded in a city. All right. The next one we're going to talk about will be the suburban communities. A community near a city is a suburban community. In this community, a suburban community would be less crowded. All right. There aren't going to be as many places to work, and people might even have to travel to the urban community to work. So if they live outside of the city, they might have to travel to the city to work, okay? And then the third kind, let's see if I can get this to go down here. There we go. The third kind is the rural communities, and a rural community is far from the city, okay? It's not too close. And these areas have lots of open land, okay, probably fields, farms, all right? It might take a long time to get to school or to the store. There are a lot of farms in rural communities, all right? And we might think of Springfield as being a city because a lot of times that's what they say, but a true urban community would be much larger and much busier than what ours is. It would be more like Chicago. Chicago would be more of a urban community, okay? Springfield acts kind of like kind of an in-between of an urban and a suburban community. All right, it's kind of an in-between because we do have rural communities around us. So Springfield's kind of hard to describe to people, but many people would say it's a city because it is the capital and we do have lots of tall buildings and businesses downtown and things like that. All right, so your question up here is, what type of community would you most like to live? So do you want to live in an urban, a suburban, or a rural community? Which one do you want to live in? Give me a sentence why. Tell me why you want to live there. Why would you want to live in one of these communities? All right. The next page we have here is talking about new customs. Okay. Oh no. Oh no, we're not printing. Oh no, my wand doesn't work. Okay, there we go. So, on this page, it is showing you some pictures that Paula took in her neighborhood, okay? And she made a poster to show some other cultures that have influenced things like food, music, clothing, art, language, and celebrations. Okay, so she's saying that this is a picture of an Italian restaurant in her neighborhood. Long ago, Americans did not eat spaghetti, but immigrants from Italy made it popular in our country, and today Americans enjoy making spaghetti at home and eating it in restaurants. Do you guys like spaghetti? I think most of you do. All right, so she's also included a picture here of another food item that immigrants could have brought over My book doesn't tell me what it is, and I'm not sure exactly what it is. I'm not sure if it's a kick. It looks like tomatoes. I don't know. Hopefully your book tells you better, because mine does not. I don't have a very good picture. Remember I showed you my book? The pictures are itty bitty. So what kinds of things do you think that immigrants have brought over and we now just consider normal to America? Obviously, spaghetti wasn't a normal thing to America. The Italians brought it over when they migrated over here. So what else could it be? What else? Here, she says that her family took a walk in the neighborhood and they noticed a group of people playing jazz. Africans actually brought jazz to the United States, and some of the rhythms that they use. So musicians in the United States changed the music and turned it into jazz. Jazz, blues, hip-hop, those are just some of the kinds of music that we listen to today that kind of became what they are, starting out with African music. And we talked about that, those of you in my reading group, we talked about that with Harriet Tubman, how they would sing songs and things like that. Kind of the same thing there. Many Africans were not migrating over here to make themselves better. Sadly, they were forced to come over, but we are very blessed that they did provide something to our culture here in the United States. And here it says Mrs. Ross, our librarian, was wearing a shirt made out of silk. So she has a silky shirt on. Silk cloth was invented in China. Many Chinese immigrants brought silk with them when they came to the United States. Silk is very soft and is used today in making clothing. Now, silk is not a type of clothing that you're going to run around and play in, okay? It's kind of expensive, and it does come from silkworms. So that might be something that you might want to look up with the help of mom or dad and find out some information about where silk comes from, all right, and how is it made. So think about other foods, music, clothing, and different cultures. All right, think about those. Like I said before, think about something that you might want to think about to see if it was something that was brought over from another country and now we just think of as normal in the United States. And go ahead and write that down, okay? It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. You can just jot down ideas of things that you think might have come over from other countries and improved what we think of as the United States.